Hey, good evening and welcome to another episode of Off the Dribble, presented and powered by the Warner Robins All-Stars. We got another good show for you today. Lots of information on this game of basketball, the recruiting process, making sure you got the right fit, right? So we're going to jump into that in just a sec. Before we get to our special guest, I want to introduce the team. Coach Tap.
What's up? What's up?
How's your weekend, sir?
Man, everything was fine, man. Just went by too fast, man. Proud of that fourth grade group that went up to Atlanta. I think the Stockbridge. Went up there in the Stockbridge, man. First tournament after just one or two practices, man, and finished 1-1. Lost the last game by 1 point. Proud of the effort and effort that those guys put in, man. Coach Kenny, y'all went up there and represented.
Man. Hey, it was again, you know how we do, man. It's all about the kids, right? So we just try to put them in the best position to go out and compete. But I was proud of them as well, man. And I think some big things are going to come from that group. So definitely. And it felt good to be back in the gym on the sideline for a minute anyway. So that was all good. Coach Charles.
What's up,
man? How was your weekend?
Good, man. Good. I'm kind of jealous of you, man. You got to get out and go do some basketball. I want to get my 2026 out there and do some things. So we'll see. But it was good. It was good.
No, good. Coach Tap, you had something else real quick?
Yeah, man. I just wanted to, on that same note of our fourth grade, man. Team Georgia Magic went represent the Middle Georgia area real good this weekend, man.
They did.
And went up there and played well, man. Seen a lot of tweets about the kids, man, about the guys, Coach Butts and Kawasa, man. Hype's out there getting it done.
Oh yeah, I seen a lot of that too. I was keeping track with them. A lot of those guys showed out this weekend, so I'm happy for them, definitely. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the show. I'd like to introduce Coach Chadwick Hixon to the show. Coach, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, we appreciate you being here. Like I said, in the intro, I know this is going to be a big show as far as getting a lot of information out to the parents and players as far as how to move in this game, right? And from an academic standpoint as well. So we definitely appreciate you, and we thank you for being on the show. Hey, so Coach, I'm gonna kind of go over some of your stats. Like we was talking before the show, man. We're well known for doing our research around here. So you're currently an assistant coach at Centennial High School, head coach of the Atlanta Lightning 17U team, or a 4-year player over at Emory University. And you actually started coaching at Emory as a volunteer assistant. Did I kind of get all that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Hey, so we always ask our guests kind of when they come on just to kind of give us their background and the things that kind of, molded you or pushed you in the direction of wanting to get into coaching and all that good stuff. So if you don't mind, can you kind of just share some of your history with us?
Yeah, definitely. I've been around basketball my whole life. Been playing or played for about 20, 25 years. Had some great coaches when I was a little kid. Great high school coaches, really good college coach. After I graduated, be honest, I was tired of basketball, so I kind of stepped away from it for a couple years and started getting that itch and, reached out to my coach to ask him if I could come on staff and help out. He allowed me to do so. I was there for 3 years at Emory, fell in love with it. And, that third year kind of started feeling like I'd feel more comfortable and wanted to do the high school thing. So after that, I moved on to Lakeside DeKalb High School. I was there for 2 years, loved it. I really enjoyed working with high school age kids versus college kids. So I'm thankful for the time at Emory. Learned a lot of information, had a great experience. But since then, I've moved on. I've been working primarily with high school kids. That's what I love. I love helping kids get to that next level.
Yeah, definitely. And when you say helping kids, Coach, that's a wide variety of areas that you cover specifically, right? So it's not just the basketball side, but it's also the educational piece and making sure that they're in the best fit for themselves, right? So if you don't mind, can you kind of break down even what that means, the best fit when you're looking at or helping out a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I talk about fit, I break it down into 4 different areas: it's academics, athletics, social, and then finances. So academic wise, when you're looking at colleges, you want to look at the different majors and programs that are being offered. If you want to be an engineer, probably don't want to be looking at schools that don't have an engineering program, for example. What kind of other opportunities they have, study abroad, what kind of tutoring services, the faculty to student ratio, all those sorts of things you want to look at. Socially, do you want to be in a big city? Would you rather be in the suburbs or more rural area? You want to go to a school that has like a religious, background or affiliation, or would you rather go somewhere else? You want to go to a big school, or you want to go to a small, liberal arts college? Those kind of questions. Athletically, can you play at that level? And that's probably the most challenging one for most people because we don't really do a good job of self-evaluation at times. So knowing what level you not only can play at, but be successful at is probably the biggest challenge. And then lastly, the financial piece, that's just how you're going to pay for school. I got a bunch of student loans. I don't wish that on anybody. So, when I'm working with kids, I'm trying to find them the most affordable option, to help them get that degree. And it's going to look different for everybody. Some kids are going to get that full athletic ride. Other kids are going to be looking at academic money versus, Pell Grant, need-based aid, those sorts of things. So, all that's part of the conversation I have with them. It's a long conversation that, that goes on from months and months, but those are the 4 areas I look at. I think those are the 4 things that folks should focus on.
Right. So it is safe to say we can consider when it comes to this process, making sure that they're hitting all the areas.
I try to be, honestly, my 9 to 5 is I'm an academic advisor at Georgia State University. So, education is a big part of my life. I really push that. And again, I got a bunch of student loans. I don't want other folks racking up all that debt because it puts you in a difficult situation once you do get out of school. I think people need to make smarter choices when it comes to their educational decisions, and in order to do that, you got to have all the information. So I try to provide the information so they can make smarter choices.
So, Coach, what kind of pushed you in that direction to kind of focus that as a passion of yours to be able to get this information out and provide this information?
I think my experience as a student athlete, like we talked about, I went to Emory. Anybody that knows anything about Emory, it's really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $70K a year. That's not what I paid out of pocket. But it's an extremely expensive school. I think I could have made some smarter choices, both as a student as well as just in my whole selection process. I could have worked a whole lot harder in high school, had a higher GPA, higher test scores that would have made me eligible for more money. But I didn't really have anybody in my ear pushing that or providing me with that information. So I try to be that for kids. The biggest way to make yourself more eligible for funds is your academics, doing well in class and then, also doing well on the SAT and ACT. So I really try to emphasize that. I think being at Emory is probably the biggest reason for that and wanting to help kids, get that college degree, but do so without racking up a whole bunch of debt.
Right. All right, Coach, and I know to see a bunch of your posts when you talking about, all the different grants. Are you accepted or with any Pell grants or different, all these other kind of grants? Explain to some of the parents the difference in some of the grants that you were posting about.
Okay. So in Georgia, we're really lucky because we have, Zell Miller and Hope Scholarship. So that's from an academic standpoint. If you do well academically, I think with Zell, you got to have a 3.7 and a 12, I believe it's a 1200 or 1250 SAT to qualify for Zell Miller, and that's going to cover full tuition. Hope Scholarship is you got to have a 3.0 and in those Hope core classes. So, it's going to be English, math, social studies, science, and foreign language. So, like team sports and stuff like that, that's not going to count. So from an academic standpoint, that's the biggest thing being a resident of the state of Georgia is you can get money there. From a need-based area, mean, Pell Grant is probably the most common one that we talk about. All that's based off doing the FAFSA. So I'm always pushing my kids to get that filled out as soon as possible. It should be available on October 1st. So I try to have my kids get it done that first week. That way we kind of know what we're playing with in terms of, the money that's going to be available. So if you're a full Pell kid right now, you're going to get about $6,300 for the year. That's a grant. It doesn't have to be paid back. So, depending upon where you're looking at going to school, I mean, that could cover all your expenses. Again, being in Georgia, we're lucky. We kind of have every different level of college and university. We got Division I, Division II, D3, JUCO, NAIA, all of the above. If you're looking at going to, even a public HBCU like an Albany State or Fort Valley, you get full Pell, and you can probably, and you got Hope, you can probably go for close to free.
Yeah.
But you just got to look into it and do the research. And the big thing is getting that FAFSA done as soon as possible. That way you have all the information that you need to make the decision.
Coach, just speaking on that, and definitely like we talked about at the end of the show, we're gonna give you an opportunity to kind of plug some stuff and get some info out there. But for that, just to follow up on that immediate question that Coach Tapp just asked, where is that information at?
You can go on East College University website and see the cost of attendance. In terms of typically they're gonna have it broken down. They'll have the tuition and fees listed separately, and then they'll have the housing, room and board, and all that listed separately as well. But you can find it on any college's website. As far as the Hope and Zell, you can go on the Georgia Futures website and find all that information.
Right.
And it's listed there. Any outside scholarships, a lot of businesses, churches and nonprofits, they offer scholarships for students. You gotta start early. You can't wait until, if I'm a senior, I can't wait until May or June after I graduate to start looking for that stuff. I gotta do so beforehand. Just because the money dries up, real quick. You want to be able to access it as soon as possible.
Yeah. So could a sophomore apply for these opportunities?
I think sophomore's probably too early. Honestly, I would say, if I'm a class of 2021 kid, I need to be looking for that stuff right now. With school getting ready to start up. And then a lot of it depends on where you're looking at going to school. If I'm looking at going to, a really selective school like a Harvard or somewhere like that, the admissions deadlines are going to start being in like November or so. Mm-hmm. So you need to be getting all that information lined up right now. Other schools have later admissions dates, so you're not necessarily as pressed to get that done right now.
Okay.
Hey, Coach. So you kind of great segue for the question that I have. You mentioned Harvard and Ivy Leagues, these Ivy League schools, and I seen a interesting topic or tweet, if you will, and if you could elaborate on the Ivy League athletic scholarship versus like a D3 and how similar those two are.
They're actually very similar. Neither one of them offers athletic scholarships. All the aid that you get to those schools is going to be need based. It's not even merit based. So a lot of kids, if I have a 3.9 GPA and a 1,500 SAT, I can probably get admitted to one of those schools. I'm probably not going to get any merit aid because all the other kids at the school got the same grades. So, but need-based. So if I'm coming from a low-income family and I got really good grades, I can go to a school like that probably for close to free. So they're similar in that way, but neither of them offer athletic scholarships. The level of play is very similar as well. A lot of people don't realize that, but your high-level D3, they're recruiting kids that are getting looked at by Ivy League, Patriot League type schools. So I encourage anybody, if you've never seen a Division III game, a high-level Division III game, go watch. Like I said, we got all levels in Georgia. I believe we got 6 D3s here in the state of Georgia. Go watch a game and see those guys can play. Emory's the example I always use just because that's where I play. But, they got kids right now. They got a kid on their team who was first team All Ohio when he graduated from high school. He doesn't even start.
Oh wow!
So they got dudes that can play. So I say all levels can play.
Yeah. So coming from your evaluation piece of the kid, right? And you're looking at a D3. Some people say, "Hey, this is a D3 kid. This is they quick to." I'm not saying that they're wrong, but they'll categorize them. What goes into that process for you?
Um, I think there's a lot of different factors. I mean, it'll vary from kid to kid. Size and athleticism definitely play a role in it. We try to pretend like it doesn't, but I mean it does. I mean, it's just being real. I mean, Division I kids are typically more athletic than your Division III, and they're going to be bigger and faster, and things like that. Um, I think the best thing is just to have a conversation with the kid and his family and see what they're looking for in their college experience. Some people want that high academic experience just because they're thinking more in the 40-year plan versus just the next 4 years.
Yeah.
And, it may make sense for them to pursue that route. Everybody's going to be different. Everybody wants different things. I love Division III. I tweet about it all the time, but it's not for everybody. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense money-wise.
Right.
And if it doesn't, then, let's find somewhere else for you to go. There's definitely some other levels that you can go to and get a great experience both on and off the court.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Coach, what is your take on the waiving of the SATs and the ACT scores for this year's graduation group among the Division Ones, everybody pretty much in the NCAA?
I think it's a really good idea. I think it's long overdue, to be honest. I think that there are other ways to evaluate kids and how successful they can be in college. I mean, we know that the SAT, a lot of it has to do with family income. Kids having access to a lot of different test resources that other kids don't have. Puts them at a really big advantage. I would like to see them go away. I kind of understand that the reason for them, the reason that's used is that we need an objective standard to judge all kids because all high schools are different. So we need like one standard where we can view everybody, but everybody's not on equal footing. Everybody doesn't have access to the same tools and resources. So the haves are going to continue to take advantage of, and those who don't have as much in terms of family wealth are not going to be able to access the same resources. So I'd like to see them go away and let us figure out different ways to evaluate kids in terms of letting them in schools. I know the virus has kind of made it almost mandatory that schools do away with it. I don't know long term if that's going to continue, because I think a lot of these schools, I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, they're very elitist, and they want to funnel out certain kids and kids with certain backgrounds and et cetera. And one of the ways they do that is through these tests, knowing that those kids don't have access to the same tools and resources to do well on those tests. So any sort of excuse they can use to keep them from being able to go, they're going to do so.
So it looks like we have a question from a viewer, Coach Charles.
So the question is from Latoya Taylor. Her question is, so is it good for them to start applying for schools and grants the summer of their senior year?
I think the summer is a great time to go on visits, particularly if you've kind of narrowed down your list of schools that you're interested in. So you can take those visits, get on campus, get a feel for it. It's going to be different in fall and spring, because the majority of kids aren't going to be on campus like they would in the fall or spring semesters. So I would definitely take time to do that during the summer. As far as applying for schools, it's really going to vary from school to school. Sometimes their application may not be available at that point. Sometimes they don't open up until kind of later in the summer, early fall. But I mean, if the application is available, I'd go ahead and get it knocked out. The sooner, the better. And as far as the grants part, I mean, the Pell Grant, like we were talking about before, I mean, that's based off the FAFSA. So you're not going to be able to do anything related to that until October 1st when it becomes available. But any sort of outside scholarships and things like that, you can start looking to them in the summer, and everyone's going to have their different application deadlines. Again, like I know a lot of businesses do scholarships. My fraternity, we give away thousands of scholarships every year. I know, I think the Macon Warner Robins chapter of Kappa Psi, they give away scholarships every year. There's a lot of money out there that people don't always know about. So the earlier you start doing your research, the more likely you are be able to access those opportunities.
And Toya, Toya is one of our parents. Her kid plays on one of our teams. So DK would definitely get you the information, Miss Toya.
Hey, Coach, I got a question for you. Another question for you. So, how do you feel the 2021 with everything that's going on, not having live periods, and streaming? I think the streaming has been well thus far. It's proven itself. But how do you feel it's going so far, and what can those kids do to kind of amp up their recruiting process?
So I mean, it's been really, really tough, obviously for 2021 kids because they had their spring evaluation period taken away as well as the summer one. I think the live streams have been great. I mean, I've seen a bunch of kids who've gotten scholarship opportunities from that. There's no one size fits all to the recruiting thing. Everybody's process is going to be different. I would say if you're not getting attention or feel like you're being recruited right now, like you feel you should, then it's time to take a more proactive approach and start reaching out directly to schools that are level appropriate. You can email those coaches, fill out the recruiting questionnaire, put your information out on social media. I mean, coaches are using social media more than ever now to kind of find kids. I wish they had that when I was in high school. Would have made things a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
But like when I played, this is early 2000s, so we play a game. It might be 2-3 weeks before you get access to the VHS, to send out the coaches. Nowadays,
Coach, what's a VHS?
I was about to say you have to explain what a VHS is, Coach.
I wish I had a copy, but yeah, they don't know what that is. But
that goes in a VCR,
right? So, and then people may think literally you had to wait like 2 or 3 weeks to get the VHS so you could send out to people, in the mail. Nowadays kids got highlight tapes, before they leave the locker room after the game. So,
oh yeah,
you use the resources that are available to you. Huddle, Crossover, YouTube, all these things are tools to market yourself. On that, with social media, make it easy for coaches to find you. On your Twitter bio, you need to have your name, your GPA, your high school, a link to your highlight tape. All that information needs to be on there so that coaches can find you and access the information as easily as possible. Got to be proactive. I mean, it's almost August, and we don't know if there's going to be a high school season. We don't know if there's going to be a spring evaluation period in 2021. So, again, you got to start reaching out to those coaches directly. Say email, doing the recruiting questionnaire, Twitter, getting your high school and your AAU coaches to reach out for you as well. All of the above. You got to be doing those things now. And then again, it's going to vary from kid to kid. If I'm trying to go to an Ivy League high academic school, again, those app deadlines are coming up quick, in like October, November, and it's the middle of July now. So the clock is ticking with that. If I'm looking at another school with later admissions deadlines, I got a little bit more time to play with. But I mean, again, it's going to vary from kid to kid.
Coach, can I ask you just to kind of backtrack a little bit when you were talking about as far as the reaching out to the schools and being proactive in that sense? What you having experience at the college level, as well as with the coaching piece of it. Were you seeing where people were reaching out? And, some people might think, well, I'll reach out, but because this coach don't know me, then, it's not going to get a real look or whatever the case may be. Can you dispel any of those rumors?
So that part is really tough. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't reached out to coaches and been ignored. I mean, it happens all the time. I got, a kid that I've emailed. He wants to play in an HBCU. I've emailed, the HBCUs in the state of Georgia. I haven't heard back. I know he can play at the schools. I wouldn't have emailed him if I didn't think he could. I haven't heard back. So I think that's part of the game. Honestly, it happens. I think that the biggest issue that we run into with that is what I talked about earlier, the self-evaluation part. You got to be honest with yourself and the level you can play at. If you're reaching out to schools that are above your playing level and skill, then you're wasting your time, and you're not. There's going to be no benefit from that. That to me is the biggest obstacle that most people run into. I've run into it with kids on my team because they're sending out blast emails to a bunch of schools, and I'm looking at the schools they're contacting. I mean, I don't tell the kids that, but I'm in my head. I'm like, you can't play there. That's why they haven't responded. So, and in a lot of instances, and I learned this. I used to work with Pro Movement as well. I know you guys had Coach Juke on last week.
Oh yeah.
One of the things I learned from Jared is you got to let the market dictate things at times. So, and what I mean by that is if I'm a prospective student athlete and I'm wanting to play in college, and the only schools that are reaching out to me and the only schools that are responding when I email are D3 schools, then guess what? That means I'm a D3 player. Yep. So if I'm hitting up a bunch of D2s and NAIAs and low D1s and they're not responding, then then I guess they don't want me. So I got to go where I'm wanted.
Yep.
And that's a difficult conversation to have at times. A lot of kids don't and families don't want to hear that. I've had issues. I'm sure Taz has had the same issue. I've had issues with kids on my team. When you had those honest conversations, you get a lot of resistance at times. But there's no benefit for me in telling you that. Like, the best thing for me is if all my kids are Division I. That makes me look better. That makes our program look better. So I have no reason to tell you that I don't believe that you can play at Division I level. That's just me trying to be honest with you, help you find a good fit for you.
Yep.
Because what's kind of those conversations that you even have with college coaches that may be trying to recruit or get information on your kids, and they're asking those questions. The one sentiment that we understand from talking to the different coaches, from talking to Coach Tack, me and Coach Charles are just trying to gain as much information as possible. But the first thing that always comes out is I have to be 100% honest with this college coach.
Yeah. One of the first things they're going to ask about is grades, obviously. So grades and test scores. So that's why it's great to, if you can get that SAT, ACT out the way as soon as possible, do that. That way we have that information to give the coaches. Now, I try to get kids to do it before that spring live period of their junior year, leading into the summer before their senior year. That way, when coaches do start reaching out, they have as much information as possible to give them. Obviously, that was challenging, impossible for the kids this year because all the tests got canceled. But the reason I bring that up is, again, I don't really necessarily agree with those tests, but they are used for scholarship opportunities in a lot of instances. So, school may not even be using those tests to determine whether or not you get admitted to the school, but they may have some merit scholarships where the criteria is a certain GPA and a certain test score. So it's important to have both of those. It's going to create more opportunities for you from a money perspective. So yeah, the first thing they ask about is grades, and then they also ask about character as well. Is he a hard worker? Attitude, those sorts of things. And I'm not gonna lie, because you lie, it's gonna end up hurting other kids down the road. So you got to be honest, because once you burn that bridge, there's really no going back. So that's probably one of my faults. I think is that I'm probably too honest about that. And I have coaches reach out to me about kids that are not on my team, and if I don't think the kid can play at the school, I tell the coach.
Right.
If I do think he is, then I'll tell him that. But hey, I don't think that kid's good enough, but I think this kid on this team, I think he could play for you guys.
Right. Let me just kind of going back to what you mentioned as far as your civilian job, right? Well, excuse me. Your job outside of coaching. I'm sorry, the military and me just came out when I said civilian. But you're 9 to 5, man. We don't want to know your money. Just kind of give us a background as far as what your civilian job. I said it again. Your 9 to 5 is to kind of translate it to what you're doing right now and the information you get up.
Regular job.
Right.
Your regular job.
9 to 5.
Your day to day.
I'm an academic advisor at Georgia State University. I've been doing that for almost 4 years now. the big thing we do is we try to work with kids to help them graduate in the most efficient way possible. So that means making sure they're taking the right classes in the proper order and so forth. So that is really connected to what I do from a coaching standpoint and trying to help kids get through high school and then move on to college. So part of those conversations I have with kids is that it's not just basketball. You got to make yourself a well-rounded individual and a competitive applicant for college. So I want you to do well in basketball, but if you like playing an instrument, join the orchestra, be in the band. If you like art, join the art club, join the Spanish club, join FBLA, all those sorts of things. It's getting harder and harder to get into college, and you got to make yourself stand out. And the way you make yourself stand out is being a well-rounded individual, doing something more than just playing basketball. And we all know the ball's gonna start bouncing one day. So explore those interests while you're still young and have the opportunity to do so. Because once you get older, you won't have as many opportunities to do that.
Yeah, coach, and shout out to Georgia State, Nelson Phillips up there, by the way.
Yeah. I was going to talk about him later.
Oh, okay. Well, you talk about him now if you want.
No, I was just going to use him as an example with the recruiting piece, and as far as everybody's process being different. A kid like Nelson or Devin, Butts, like their process is going to be different than a kid that's a mid-level or low-level Division III kid. Everybody's process is different. There's no one size fits all for everyone. We just have to. What I just try to tailor it to the person that I'm working with and do what I can to help them. And again, some folks are easier to help than others. That's just a fact. A kid like Nelson or Devin, that's easy. They can play. Like you don't have coaches, coming at them real hard. If I got a 6'8" kid, it's going to be easier to find a place for him than if I have somebody that's 5'8". That's
Right.
just how the game works. I mean, there's so many guards out there, so many guards under 6 feet tall out there. There's not a lot of 6'8" guys out there, so it's just a numbers game.
And coach, talk about some of the different criterias of getting in a Division I program, which is a Division II, NAIA, JUCO program.
To me, NAIA is kind of the most simple in terms of getting in. Their eligibility is pretty simple. I mean, there's 3 parts to it. It's 2.0 GPA, and you got to have 18 ACT, and you have to graduate in the top half of your class. So if you get 2 of those 3, you're eligible. That should be pretty simple. Should be. Not always the case with some of our kids, but so I encourage kids. They have their own eligibility center, so go ahead and submit that paperwork as soon as possible so you can start that process. At the same time, when you're doing your NCAA eligibility stuff as well, you don't want to get in a situation where a school can't recruit you because you're not eligible. So you need to have those conversations as soon as possible. Meet with your high school counselor, in terms of mapping out your schedule, making sure you're taking the right classes and things like that. The earlier the better. Do it as a 9th grader. Meet with your counselor, say, hey, I want to play college basketball at the Division I level. What classes do I need to take to make that happen? Or, say, I want to go to such and such university. I want to go to Harvard. I want to go to Emory. What classes do I need to take in order to get there? Because the answer is going to be different depending upon what your goals are. I know we have a lot of kids who do dual enrollment. We got kids who do AP and IB. Depending upon where you're trying to go to school, you may want to do one over the other. Some schools are more likely to accept AP or IB credit than they are to accept dual enrollment credit. So those are conversations you want to be having as early as possible. That way you are not taking classes that aren't going to count towards your degree.
Yep. Got it. Hey, Coach, so you said something that really stuck with me. You said the market dictates a kid recruiting, and I think that's a message that kids need to get out there. with a message that kids need to hear, because it really is one of those things. As much as we love these kids, we can't make a coach take you. It is what it is. And I know Coach Tab, that man worked double time trying to get these kids scholarships and get these college coaches onto these guys, as I would assume, every AAU coach is doing. So, but yeah, it's just something that stuck with me. The market dictates the some of the recruiting process. But my question for you is, man, what's next for you, man? I know you coaching at Centennial High School. You're assistant coach out there. So what does that look like for you? Are you looking for a head coach gig, or?
That's a good question. I'm hoping that we're gonna have a season because I think we're gonna have a really good team this year. I'm just just right now I'm just trying to learn and grow as much as possible. I like doing AAU. I really do. But I also like coaching high school as well. And if I want to be a head high school coach, that's going to require me to get my teaching certification. And I just haven't made a final decision on that yet. For now, I'm probably just going to stick in the AAU game and just try to grow our program. Help as many kids as I can, and just kind of see what happens from there.
Gotcha.
So, Coach, I think that was a perfect segue into the basketball talk. Right, so the hot topic the last however many weeks has been a shot clock coming to the state of Georgia for the high school level. Kind of share your thoughts on that. How you think that's going to benefit the game, if that's what you think, and do you see that transitioning over to AAU tournaments as well to get kids prepared?
No, honestly, I kind of have mixed thoughts on it. I'm a little indifferent. I don't really care one way or the other. I do see the benefit from getting kids, used to it. So when they get to college, it's not such a huge adjustment. I definitely think there's a benefit there. But I also see the other side of the argument that I've heard where it gives, I guess, the lesser talented team an opportunity to be more competitive. Less possessions gives the team with the less talent, a bigger chance to win. So I kind of see both sides of the argument. I think eventually it's going to trickle down to all levels of youth basketball here in the States, including AAU. I think it's only a matter of time before that happens, and I think that's probably a good thing in the long run. Kids will learn to make quicker, more efficient decisions at a younger age. That's only going to benefit them as they get older. Because the older you get, the game moves a lot quicker. You gotta be able to make decisions at a quicker rate. Those passing lanes close down. Guys are bigger, stronger, longer and faster. So I think in the long run it will help the game in Georgia. But I definitely see the other side where if I'm a coach and I'm playing a team with significantly more talent, and I want to be competitive. Not necessarily holding the ball, but not taking bad shots, not being forced to take bad shots because of a shot clock.
Right. And Coach, and with us staying on the topic of the AAU level, the Atlanta Lions, man, it's been a team I've seen, and y'all have done a great job. With the organization, the way it's been moving. Pretty much hit y'all pretty hard, just like everybody else with this pandemic. And y'all stopped. Y'all didn't do anything this summer. What did you think that with some of those kids it hurt the stock, or how do you think it really affected some of the kids?
The team the initial team, because with AAU we get versions of them. The first draft, I had quite a few 2020 kids, so I think it definitely hurt them because they didn't get another opportunity to get in front of coaches and play. But when we made the decision to shut down, we got to work in terms of finding those kids places to play, and as of right now, we've been able to do that with all of them. So that's a blessing. As far as the 2021 kids, I think anytime you don't have the opportunity to play in front of college coaches, that's going to hurt you. But another thing I learned from Jared and working with him, the year and a half, 2 years I worked with him, we hear the word exposure a lot. I think it's probably one of the most misused and misunderstood words in youth athletics. And the reason I say that is, um, if I'm a Division II level player and I'm playing in a tournament and the only coaches they're watching are Division I coaches, I'm not really playing in front of coaches that are for me and that are relevant to my recruiting experience. So more so than exposure, I think in the term that Jared uses, relevant exposure, I think it's important to get in front of the coaches that are relevant to your recruiting experience, that are level appropriate for you. So for my kids, I'm gonna be doing everything I can to reach out to schools that are appropriate for them in those 4 areas we talked about before. So they all have highlight tapes, and if they don't, we're working on getting them for them. So we're gonna get that film out to them. Hopefully, they're able to have a high school season and get more film. If not, we're just going to be praying that we're able to do something in the spring, at the very least, so we can get those guys on college campuses in front of those coaches and playing. But I mean, regardless, we're going to do whatever we can to help them, and it may require taking an alternate path. It may look different than what they initially thought. Maybe we got to go to JUCO route for a year, and then move on to a 4-year school. My experience, when I was coming out of high school, I didn't have any schools looking at me really. I thought I had a decent senior year. I played at Berkmar High School in Gwinnett County, which was at the time 5A, which was the largest classification. I didn't have any schools looking at me, and so I went to West Georgia actually just for a year as a regular student, and studied hard, and then I transferred to Emory and started playing. So if you want to make it happen, you'll do what it takes to make it happen, and sometimes that is going to require you to take a different path than the traditional path.
Coach, now you say you was at Berkmar. You in there, the state championship teams, were you?
No, I missed out on that. They won in '99 and 2000, and I graduated in 2005. I missed out.
Yeah, they beat my Demons in '99.
Yeah, I still know a couple of those guys. I think Will Witherspoon. I think he was on one of those teams. He coaches at Walnut Grove now. So I played with his two older brothers, or his two younger brothers, Wesley and Winston. Yeah, I mean, I said, and part of that is also why I tend to not have a whole lot of sympathy for kids who don't want to take to, because I know what I went through and what I had to do. If you want to make it happen, you can make it happen. And it's a lot easier to do it now than it used to be because of the technology and the social media and things like that.
Right. And Coach, you talked about the films that y'all are doing and reaching out to the coaches and stuff like that, man. And I do want to send a shout out to SUV TV and Pop Scout, those guys that we can contact to get film from kids, from them. And I also want to give a shout out too of the film that we normally have is Coach Charles. Coach Charles normally getting the film work done and we get it out for the kids and stuff like that. So it is good to have that avenue to get that done for those kids. And I tell kids all the time, you got to get it done on the floor, and we'll do the back end stuff. And
you got to produce.
Yeah, you got to do that. You got to do that, and that's what we we preach to those kids, man. And then I might hit you up and say, hey, Coach, got such and such, man, Rodney James or Rashawn Tomlin, Jordan Brown, Trey Grain, somebody like that. So, Coach, got these kids, and it's you just tell me what I need to do. And I mean, it's been a great process, man.
Yeah, we're very blessed to be in Georgia. There's a lot of great basketball people here that are doing good things to help our kids. So I say it's easier to do now. If you want to get it done, you can get it done. You just got to produce on the court and do what you got to do in the classroom.
Right.
Hey, coach, to that level, right? So from your time working with the pro organization, and just being around basketball and being an AAU coach, how important is it to get in the right tournaments? So you talked about the exposure piece, right, or relevant exposure. I think that's a great term, relevant exposure. But how important is it for an organization or for a team to 17 to 16 U's or whatever the case may be to be playing in the right places so they can get an opportunity to be looked at?
It's extremely important. I mean, that's part of that piece of finding the relevant exposure. You got to be where the coaches are. Again, that's it's going to be different for everybody. I mean, if you got players on your team, it don't matter where you're playing, the coach is going to come find you.
Right.
But if you got some guys who may be kind of flying under the radar, who people may not know about, you need to be able to put them in a position where folks are going to see them. So that's part of as an AU coach, making sure you're choosing the right tournaments and getting your players there. And you gotta play during the live period. I mean, if I'm a 17U coach and my kids aren't playing during the live period, then I'm not doing my job.
Right.
But going beyond that, it is definitely picking the right tournaments. And again, that's a blessing of being in the state of Georgia. You don't have to leave Georgia to find quality tournaments to play in. You can stay in state, the whole spring and summer, and you're gonna be able to do that.
So, Coach,
Hey, my bad, Charles. Once my bad.
Yeah.
And another, and to piggyback on that too, Coach. And when you say, you got to find the right tournaments, and if you got good players, the coaches will find those players. But you got to be honest with yourself as to your players too. Now, I mean, you got some coaches that say, "Hey, I got this player, this, that, and the other," but they're not being totally honest with them either. And that steers the kid in the wrong direction. I mean, that's just my personal opinion on that. But I mean, like you said,
I agree.
I mean, you got to be
And I think that's a big issue with youth athletics. We don't have enough men who are being honest with our kids at all times. A lot of people sell dreams.
Yep.
Versus telling kids what they need to hear. And I've always been one of those people. I'm going to tell a kid what I feel he needs to hear. He may not like it, but I think in the long run, it's going to be the best thing for it.
Actually, that was where I was going with my question as well, Coach Tat.
my bad.
All good, all good. But I would say I will ask this question. For an independent team, if they're playing in Georgia, if you could name three. I don't want to say tournaments, but I guess tournament organizations that they should be looking at. What would be those three?
You're trying to get me in trouble, man.
Well, it could be off the dome. It could be off the dome. Or name however many.
I'll just speak from my experience as a coach. Are you referring specifically to the state of Georgia or just in general?
Yeah, just the state of Georgia. Georgia.
We've typically played in either on the radar hoops events or hoop scene events. Those have been the two that have been the most beneficial for us. When we have gone out of state, which we've really only done that for one tournament each year, the Phenon hoops events that they have up in South Carolina, those are really good events as well. Those would probably be the three that I would recommend. But again, if you got players, man, it don't matter where you play.
Yep.
I mean, if I got a bunch of dudes on my team that are high major D1, it don't matter where I'm playing. Coaches are going to come watch me.
Yeah.
It's just easier to do in those bigger events because the coaches are going to be there. And again, another thing I think people don't understand is when we talk about live period, I don't think people necessarily know what live period means. They just know that's when college coaches are going to be there. But if you can Google this. I mean, if you just look at the recruiting calendars, the live period is based upon the Division I recruiting calendar. So that is when Division I schools are able to come out and recruit kids. Like D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, they have their own separate recruiting calendar. It's just that most folks will come out during that Division I because that's when all the tournaments are held. That's where they're going to get the most bang for their buck and be the most efficient in using their resources to recruit.
That's good info, Coach. Good info. So yeah, so I definitely wanted you to speak to that a little bit because I think scheduling as these kids get older is very important and sometimes, like you said, relevant exposure as well need to be a part of that equation. So
Yeah, you got to challenge yourself. As a competitor, obviously you want to win, but not really keeping track of trophies and W's. We're trying to help our kids get in school.
yep.
Say it again, Coach.
One more time for the
Say
people
it again.
We're not keeping track of W's and trophies. We're trying to get our kids in school. So that's going to require you to take a couple L's. If you're playing the right people and playing in the right places, you're going to lose some games. It's just part of it.
Yes, sir.
Gotta want that smoke.
All of it.
Coach, where on the high school side of it, scheduling, the scheduling piece, man, and I tell you why I asked that. Me with Coach Gorman always wants to have that tough non-region schedule that prepares you for the state playoffs, the region tournament, state playoffs. Speak about that. What do you think the benefits of that is?
I think there's a couple benefits. I think one, I just remember being in high school. Some of my best memories are, traveling to like Thanksgiving, Christmas tournaments. Even if they were out of state, just that bonding time with your teammates and coaches. I think that's, part of high school athletics. We want kids to have a good experience and things they can look back on fondly, when they get older. So I think that part of it is important, giving kids experiences. I do think you got to challenge yourself if you want to be ready to play in the region tournament and the state tournament, like you said. Just playing playing a soft schedule just to rack up wins is not going to help you in the long run, especially in 5A. I know 5A is real tough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, if I'm a high school, I'm gonna, if I can get out of state for a Christmas tournament, I'm gonna do that. Budget things, but let's give our kids good experiences and allow them to enjoy the time being in high school.
All right.
Coach, let me ask you just from you being sounds like I'm assuming born and raised in Atlanta.
No. I've been in Georgia my whole life, but I'm from Northwest Georgia, Dalton to be exact.
Okay, yeah.
So I lived there until 8th grade, and then we moved to Gwinnett. So I after that I was in Snellville out in Gwinnett County.
Right. So you've been in different areas and maybe old enough, even when you were in 8th grade or 7th grade playing basketball, just different type or style of basketball. Right. So again, this program is kind of built to kind of raise the awareness level of folks to let them know what the Middle Georgia area has as far as talent wise and all that good stuff. So is there anything maybe you could share with us or just any thoughts that you could give as far as you seeing a difference between the Metro Atlanta area and the Middle Georgia area as far as talent wise, or is it things that we could possibly do in this area to kind of, advertise our kids more, besides the things you already spoke
on? I think, anytime there's a larger population of people, there will be more talent, in terms of, the total number. But, I think there's a lot of talent in the Middle Georgia area. I think there's a lot of talent in South Georgia. I think that, we all probably agree there is a Metro Atlanta bias in a lot of instances about things. I think that just kind of comes with it. I think it's easier for a coach to get to Atlanta to see a kid versus maybe getting to Warner Robins or getting to Tipton or Valdosta, et cetera, et cetera. I think that in 2020, it's not as big an issue because of some of the things I talked about earlier with the technology and social media. You can get that information out to coaches. You can get in touch with coaches and let them know what you have and who you have. And also, going back to Coach Tad's question, scheduling. For my Thanksgiving, my Christmas tournaments, maybe I'm taking my kids to I don't know, Charleston, Nashville, Chattanooga, Birmingham, Montgomery, somewhere like that, and allowing them or Charlotte, allowing them to be in an area with some different schools and things that can come watch them play. So I think doing that is gonna, put your kids in the best position to be seen and have more opportunities. And again, that playing AAU will do the same. It's all those different parts are working together, to help our kids.
Right. So it's kind of like that cycle, right? So if you're playing in an AAU program and they're going maybe to Atlanta or wherever the case would be to play in tournaments, and then I get identified, that's what's going to bring the coaches down to the high schools, and then getting out in the high schools and playing high school and the AAU programs to have a relationship.
Some of them do. Won't go into detail on that, but yeah. I think it's important for them to be working together for the benefit of the kid. We all been in basketball enough to know that there's a lot of politics involved. It's a lot of ego and agenda. Everybody has their own agenda and what they're trying to do. Hopefully, those two parties are on the same page and working to help the kid get where he or she needs to go or wants to go. And if that's the case, then I think everything will work itself out. And if you're a parent, you need to, hold both parties accountable as well. Make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing to help your kid. But I'd also say, don't rely on somebody else to do what you can do for yourself.
Right.
You don't need a coach to email, a college coach for you. You can do that yourself. Now, that coach may have a relationship with that coach, so it'll make it easier for him to do so. But never be afraid to take initiative and take control of your process. Don't rely on somebody else to do what you can do for yourself. Because I did that, and it didn't work out for me initially. I mean, it did, but make things easier on yourself. Take control of your process and do what you got to do.
Coach, one last question from me. Well, I wouldn't say question. I wouldn't say a question statement. I should say. I want you to speak to the young people, man, or maybe even the parents, that freshman coming into high school. I heard you say earlier, they need to, know what they want to do, but he's a freshman or she's a freshman coming right in. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I probably should have worded that better. I don't expect a 13 or 14-year-old to know what they want to do with the rest of their life. Because I didn't figure that out until I was almost 30. So I would say definitely meet with your counselor. As we talked about before, make sure you're taking the right classes and things like that. Get involved in one or two clubs. My personal opinion, others may disagree. I think it's more important to be heavily involved in one or two things than just be a general member and not really active in 5 or 6 different things. Find something that you're passionate about and pursue it. That can be music, art, dance, theater, anything like that. Put your heart into it and put everything you got into it. Along with basketball, if basketball is something you want to pursue as well, do that. If you want to get a little part-time job, do that. I love basketball. Basketball is not everything. There's a lot more life out there that I want our young people to pursue. Get business in the classroom. If you need help, ask for it. Stay after school for tutoring and things like that. Just take advantage of the resources that are available to you.
So, yeah, Coach, one of the things I was going to say, man, is we just appreciate all the knowledge you're giving these young folks. And I think we often, I know for me, I got a young group, so I often get caught up in the basketball piece. Like, they need to be doing X, Y, and Z. Like, man, these kids ain't but in the 6th or 7th grade. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm telling everybody trust the process. And sometimes I have to slow down and reevaluate and look in the mirror myself. Like, whoa, all right. So they only know so much of the game. So, how does that process look for your youngins right now? For your AAU team, are they coming along pretty good, or how do you go into that process with them?
So I kind of got a two-part answer to that. One is I think that there's this not that you were saying this, but I think there's in general. I think there's this like misconception that you can't be a really good student and a really good athlete. And we have multiple examples that say otherwise. Myron Rowe, I think he was a cornerback at Florida State maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. Rhodes Scholar, also got drafted into the NFL. I played when I was at Emory, and one of my teammates graduated with a 3.8 GPA, and he was a neuroscience and behavioral biology major.
Oh wow!
Went overseas and played for like 3 or 4 years. And now he's in medical school.
That's awesome.
So you can do it. It's not easy. It's hard. So you can do it. It can definitely be done. My second part to that is I think in 2020 in this social media world that we have, we got a lot of kids who kind of fall prey to the hype. I've had like 8th and 9th graders, hit me up in my DMs telling me they need more exposure. Like exposure to who?
Right.
Like you haven't played a single high school game. You haven't attended a single high school class. Like what do you need exposure to? Who do you need exposure to?
Right.
And the answer is, basically, they want tweets and posts on Instagram and things like that. Which I was a kid, I really understand that, but being an adult now, I see the bigger picture. Like just focus on school and working on your game. If you do that, everything else will take care of itself. So that's what I tell kids. The whole exposure thing. Once you get into a latter portion of your 10th grade year, moving into your junior year, then we can start having those conversations about putting you in a position to be seen by coaches and things like that. But man, if you're in the 8th or 9th grade, like just be a kid, man. Just enjoy, because once it's gone, it doesn't come back. So enjoy it while it lasts.
Everybody ain't created equal.
Everybody's not created. Amen.
So, Coach, we're going to get out of here in about a couple more minutes. But I want to get this opportunity to you to kind of plug anything you got coming up. You shared a lot of great information. If there's somewhere people can reach out to you, if you want to give out your social media, just the floor is yours right now, Coach.
Yeah. So my Twitter account, which I'm always on Twitter, probably not too much, is at Coach Hixon Dimes. So at COACH, capital HIXON, capital DIMES. Definitely feel free to hit me up there if you have any questions or need help with anything. I try to help kids the best way I can. That's why I do this. Coming up, I am in the process of kind of creating a own platform for myself so that I can have this information available for folks. And kind of what I spoke on before, my start into basketball, post college was, working with Pro Movement, being an evaluator. I'm going to try to get back into that. So I'm going to be getting out, trying to see as many games as possible, and identifying kids who aren't being talked about. I think we have enough people who talk about the 4 and 5 star kids we have in our state. I don't think we have enough people who are helping the kids who really need help and who really need to be connected to the right school so they can get to that college or university that's going to help them get where they want to go.
Coach, I tell you this, Coach, definitely. I know we will stay in contact.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. You got my number, and we talk on Twitter all the time. So, like I said, I'm on Twitter all the time. Like I said, probably too much, but I love it. I'm kind of addicted to it. Definitely, anything I can do to help, let me know.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Coach, we definitely appreciate you being on the show and sharing a lot of this great information. Before we do get out of here, though, definitely, we want to send our condolences out to Statesboro High School and the Georgia Suns AAU team on the young man player that they had pass away this weekend. Very unfortunate. Like I said, all our condolences, our prayers and thoughts are with his family and friends and teammates. I'm at a loss for words for it. So hopefully they're healing, and that process is going to take place. But definitely know that our thoughts are definitely with you guys. Coach Tad, you got anything you want to add to that?
Oh no, man. Like you said, man. Our thoughts and prayers are with that family, with team Georgia Suns, man. Coach Tobias, who's the head coach of that team, man. You know, just thoughts and prayers, with him and the rest of the coaches on that staff. Like you said, it's unfortunate, man. Hate it happened. Just hopefully everybody heal from the process.
Yes, sir. Coach Charles.
Yeah, same here, man. Just want to send that same message out to the family, the friends, the coaches out of Georgia Suns, and hopefully that healing process is something that they can go through seamlessly. And like I said, I really don't know what to say or have the words to say to that very sad occasion. So,
Coach Hixon, you have any words for that?
Just send my condolences out to the family and to that whole community. Definitely will keep you in my thoughts and prayers.
So to all the viewers, we appreciate you joining us today. Like I said, Coach Hixon dropped a lot of information and a lot of knowledge. I would recommend following him on Twitter because, like he said, he's very active on Twitter. I get a lot of alerts. But it's all good information. Yeah, it's all good information. And he's helping, and I think he mentioned it earlier, he's not just helping his kids, he's helping kids in general, and sharing information, retweeting stuff to get kids exposure, all that good stuff. So we appreciate you being on the show, Coach. Like I said, I think I ran out of all the great words to say about you. So you can, the check is in the mail, right? So join us Wednesday. Coach Tat, you want to talk about our show we got coming up Wednesday?
Wednesday, man, we got a fabulous show, man. We're going I think we're gonna change it up a little bit and bring some of our kids on, man, some of our promising kids for the future, man, and of the program, and have them on and talk to them and see what their head at within this pandemic, within the basketball world, and just educational, and just try to talk to them a little bit and see where their head is, and get that done on Wednesday.
Yes, sir. So again, Coach Hixon, anytime you need to come on the show, man, this platform is here for you. So when you get your stuff up and running, just hit Coach Tat. We can bring you back on so you can plug it, or whatever the case would be. You always got a spot on the show when you need it. So
thank you.
Thank you for joining us, man. Viewers, appreciate you all. If you need to get in touch with Coach Hixon, and you can catch his Twitter or whatever the case would be, his information, hit us up. We'll get that information out to you. Other than that, we have nothing left to say. Peace.